It's me, Russell Brand, talking about all the books that I've written. The most controversial book I've ever written is this one, Revolution. When I wrote this, there was a real mad stir. Around this time as well, the controversy spilled out into everyday life. It's when I went on Question Time and had a row with Nigel Farage. It's when I went on Newsnight and had a row with Paxman. It's when I went on Morning Joe and had a row with whoever they are, them people on Morning Joe. It's sort of, this precipitated the transition from innocuous celebrity figure into someone whom had more consequential controversy around him. I always had controversy around me because I was sort of drug addict lunatic who lived in a weird way. So there was always an element of controversy. But I suppose this was a moment where I just transitioned into a different type of person, I think, or at least overtly in terms of public reputation. What this book Revolution was about is, like, people say the world can't be changed. Well, here's a bunch of ideas that I've got off of other people that would change the world. I talk about direct democracy, governments in sort of parts of Brazil that allocate entire budgets to communities that then vote for it. Ideas that I got off of my mate Matt Stoller, who like worked as a wonk in Washington, like as an advisor to a Democrat politician. And he said, here are some ideas: cancel all debt. You could just cancel all debt of like people, not of banks. And he said, what if you abolished titles, that you didn't call people things like Mr. or Mrs. or Sir or Madam or Captain or Doctor? What if you just removed all of that? Like, what would that do to society? It suggests that all of those things are little subtle markers that prevent you from having equality. He also said, what if you ended private security, that no one could pay for private security? Because now what you have is, of course, you have state-funded police, etc. But private security means that there is a strata of society that are completely, what do I want to say, insulated through a layer of private security. So, like, there was some like amazing ideas. I mean, like, it's what I like about this little book is it's a person who's not had a formal education dealing with some challenging ideas and actually trying to convey them in a, what do I want to say? I want to convey them in an accessible and ordinary way. In this chapter, titled I Am an Anarchista, obviously a reference to the Sex Pistols, I'll read it here. Gandhi, an extremely efficient revolutionary, is perhaps most admired for his excellent deployment of non-violent protest. The ingenuity of non-violence is not immediately obvious to us, the inheritors of a world built upon martial means, but the principle is almost like mathematics. Authorities are trained to deal with a particular kind of conflict, violent conflict. By using violent means, you are entering the territory that they are best qualified to control. Also, by becoming violent, you are tuning into the frequency that you are trying to overcome, the frequency of violation, Violence FM. Be the change you wish to see in the world, said Gandhi. If you want a non-violent world, you cannot use violence to achieve it. He also said, in the end, the British will walk out because 100,000 British cannot control 350 million Indians if those Indians refuse to cooperate. A small minority cannot control an uncooperative majority, so they must be distracted, divided, tyrannized or anaesthetized into compliance. Gandhi dealt with the colonization of nations by nations. We deal now with the colonization of consciousness by corporations. That's good, isn't it? I wrote that ages ago. I spoke to David Graeber, God rest his soul, the anthropologist, economist, writer and Occupy movement member. Typically I would write Occupy movement leader, but they eschew such titles in the movement. David is an anarchist. I don't know much about anarchism. I only know about anarchy from graffiti, the Sex Pistols, and as a kind of slur or reprimand from my mum. Is that what you want? It'd be anarchy. Well, according to David Graeber, there's more to anarchy than not tidying your bedroom, spitting and having a Mohican. In fact, it isn't defiantly disorderly at all. It is a society that has no centralised power. David came round my house in East London during a torrential downpour to talk to me about revolution. It was properly raining. I stopped what I was doing to look out the front door at the rain. One of those sudden outbursts of nature that serves as a deft reminder that even mighty structures like cities are temporary and nonsensical. It smashed its way down from the sky, all joyful and triumphant, like Ye Faithful. David turned up whilst I was marvelling at it and half planning an arc, with his jacket pulled up over his head, like when you play Batman. It was ridiculous. He was soaking. I had to get a towel and offer him clothes that he wouldn't take. I knew immediately that I'd like him. He just had one of those faces. I could see what he'd been like as a boy, probably always fenced off in the electronic penitentiary of a too fast mind. He spoke pertinently, given the weather, like Rain Man, or like his voice was trying to become a synthesized burr like Stephen Hawking's robot voice. There was a salad on the table, still packaged from a Thai takeaway. "Can I have this?" said David, already unpacking it, like it was an energy coin in a computer game. Then he sat there, eating, all wet and content, with a towel round his head, like E.T. on his way back to his spaceship. How's this bloke going to dream up a new economic system, I wondered. David is most well known for his idea of debt cancellation. Personal debt cancellation used to be a common policy in ancient civilizations. Every 7 years, all debt was cancelled. The Bible refers to debt jubilees, where everyone's debt would be reset to zero. I think it's especially nice that it was called a jubilee, creating an even more euphoric sense of carnival. In Islam too, usury, credit at extortionate rates, like Wonga or whatever offer, is forbidden. So this bizarre sounding notion has strong historic precedent. It is a mark of how far into materialism we've descended that it seems unfeasible in our world. David explained from beneath my towel that debt repayment has a powerful moral charge in our culture, that people feel ashamed about debt and guilty about non-payment. 75% of Americans are in debt, 40% owing more than 50 grand, while an estimated 9 million British people are in serious debt. What David Graeber, the anarchist, is suggesting is that all personal debt for normal people, is cancelled. Think about it. That means you. All your debt cancelled. When David said it, I felt excited, like it was naughty, like it shouldn't be allowed. This is the feeling I still get when I start a car. I shouldn't be doing this, I think, plunging down on the accelerator. The reality is I shouldn't be. I'm a terrible driver. My conditioning kicked in when David Graeber, I say his name like Craig, Dave Graeber, said that debt cancellation is a contemporary possibility. I nearly told him to shush and looked over my shoulder for a park keeper. Immediately, just by contemplating it, you feel like you're bunking off school. We can't cancel debt, we'll get the cane. So that's actually a pretty good example, given that I chose it at random. David Graeber, God rest his soul, as I described in that book, was a brilliant man. His life ended pretty recently, and a lot of people were pretty sad because he was a great and innovative thinker. I spent some time with him, like trying to learn stuff, and I feel like now that this is what, I don't know, is this 5 years ago, 10 years ago? I'm not very good with time. I feel like ideas like debt cancellation are ever more appealing and important. What I'm interested in now, you'll know if you watch a lot of my content, is exploring radical ideas that shouldn't necessarily... Who decides what's radical? Radical is interrupting the interests of the powerful. That's what radical is. There's a lot of things happening right now that I think are pretty bloody radical, as a matter of fact, but they're not considered radical because they are in alignment with the interests of the powerful. So this little book, Revolution, probably of the books we've looked at so far in the little series of Russell Brand's wander down memory literary lane, is the one I'd most seriously recommend looking at. It's patchy, I'll give you, you know what I mean, I'll be honest about it. I know there are bits where I was just like sort of almost writing in a frenzy late at night, just trying to get stuff done. A lot of my books like that, they fall off a cliff at the end. But I tell you what, stick your blue flag. There's an anti-Chelsea lyric in here, no disrespect Chelsea fans. Anyway, look, the point is this is a good little book, well worth looking at. But let me know what you think in the comments. Have you read it? Are you going to read it? Give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to it. Have a look at this video. It's a meditation video you might like. And have a look at this one. It's a video pretty similar to this one that you might enjoy. Please sign up to my mailing list so I can stay in regular contact with you, tell you what I'm writing now, what I'm reading now, what I'm thinking about now. And if you're around between January and May next year, come and see me live. Stay free.